let me join the Deputy Prime Minister in congratulating Michael, you and the Blazer Foundation, Morgan and the Business Council, and you, participants here today who are focused on a country that is going through difficulties, has great potential and great strategic importance to certainly the United States government and I think many other governments around the world. So this is an important time in Ukraine's history for you to gather and think about these questions about where Ukraine has been, where it is now, and how it is going to move forward. I'm very pleased to be able to offer just a couple of observations and look forward to other panels later on today. The Deputy Prime Minister talked about the difficulties facing Ukraine today, and I would say that that Ukraine has been wounded by this international crisis, and it has been wounded by wounds coming from outside, world-inflicted wounds, and it's been wounded by self-inflicted wounds. The world has inflicted wounds on this economy, on this country, on this nation, and Dr. Segura, I'm sure, will, having read his paper, I'm sure will describe in some detail the effect of the international crisis on Ukraine. Deputy Prime Minister has indicated the problems of credit and the importance of the IMF, and I will come back to that as well. But these are world-inflicted wounds on Ukraine. There, of course, are self-inflicted wounds. And we know the main, I would say that there are two main ones. One's political and one is judicial. The political self-inflicted wound, Gregory has talked about as well, and that is the lack of unity that has kept Ukraine's government writ large from responding to the world-inflicted wounds that the economy has lashed. The political disunity has meant that the President and the Prime Minister have not been able to work together to come up with policies, programs that would ameliorate the problems, that would address the problems. It's important for the government to have a policy on the fiscal side and the monetary side that reinforce each other. A coordinated monetary and fiscal policy is something that has not been possible under the last political problems that we have seen. Ukraine is strong when it is united, and it is weak when it's not united. And that has been the problem over the last several years that I've been able to observe close hand. This has led then to a lack of confidence in the central bank. And the central bankers, I'm sure, NBU will have a discussion of this later on this morning. Lack of confidence in the currency. A lack of confidence in the economy and ability to attract investment. These are functions, these are symptoms of the difficulty inflicted on the country by a lack of unity. The second major self-inflicted wound is the justice system. And the justice system is crucially important for investors as they decide where to put their funds. And if there is an ability to resolve disputes in a country that is objective, that is rational, that is not subject to the whims of politics or the whims of important people in the country, that investor will come to Ukraine, will come to countries that have that kind of a justice system. We have seen over and over on the political side, on the commercial side, problems in the justice system, problems in deciding which courts to go to, which jurisdictions to raise the dispute settlement in, what judges are involved, what motivates these judges. These series of problems are self-inflicted and can be solved. After the election that is coming up in January, there are great opportunities, I believe, for Ukraine to solve some of these self-inflicted wounds. The election gives the opportunity for a new president. There could be alignments after that that would allow the Rada to make decisions. The various political parties, in particular the main responsible political parties that we're all familiar with, are not greatly divided about the policies that they would pursue if they were elected, if their candidate was elected president. There is general agreement on most of the large issues. So this ought to give, after the election, the opportunity for the healing of these self-inflicted wounds, in particular on the political side. There's not great dispute about the direction that Ukraine is taking now and should take, and that is a European direction. That is common across most of the, all of the major responsible political parties in Ukraine. There's not dispute about the need for reform. The questions on how to do the reform efforts exist, and that's what you talk about during elections. Elections will exacerbate the differences, but those are differences at the tactical level. The strategic direction on Europe, on economic reform, are common across the major political parties. Economic reform, land reform, judicial reform, anti-corruption measures, these are all issues that can be, and I'm confident will be addressed after January 17th, probably the runoff on the 7th of February. So after the 7th of February, we would expect, and indeed, I think the Ukrainian people will demand steps in this direction. Let me just say a little bit about the International Monetary Fund. As the Deputy Prime Minister said, this is the major source of credit at this point. Shouldn't be, but it is. And it's an important source. There are strings attached to this credit, and those strings are the strings that we've talked about. And they are economic reform, energy reform, judicial reform, these kinds of hard reform steps, in particular in a time of the election, in particular of a political campaign. These are difficult to take. These steps are important to take. The IMF has made that clear. The IMF is there today and this week making exactly those points. And I'm sure that the government is listening carefully. The timing of when these steps are accomplished, when the economic reforms and energy reforms in particular are accomplished, is going to be important. There is a window of opportunity, and it probably opens on the 8th of February. And that is the time that people should demand, the IMF should demand, that these steps are taken. People in Kyiv can heal these self-inflicted wounds. People in other capitals, including this one, can help the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian government and the new government that comes in on the 8th of February, shortly thereafter. We in this country and other countries that are friends of Ukraine can help heal these wounds. In this city that we look around at here, we understand the importance, the strategic importance of Ukraine. It's not an inconsequential decision to support this country. This country is important strategically, not just for the 46 million people who live there, or its neighbors, some of which we've talked about here already, or the rest of Europe. But it is a strategic importance for the region that Ukraine succeed. And the principal way it can succeed through the IMF and through support from the international community is open to us now. So I'm confident that this country will continue to make that support and provide those directions. Thank you very much.